time to get geeked up.
And then, it's going to be even longer because turns out we didn't beat back the demons on Halloween, and election night still came after all. Turns out, though, this is a little bit afterwards, and the world's not on fire. The Civil War hasn't started yet, which is, this time the Civil War, if it does happen, will be pretty different because, during the real Civil War, it was a line drawn right down the middle, north and south. Now you got red states over here, blue states over here. I don't know.
That's true, actually. We can't just all meet at Gettysburg and get it on with muskets or whatever. Exactly. It's like fucking... No, you're right. It's definitely gonna start off with like a neighbor to neighbor. It's gonna be like a tournament, like a March Madness style. Whoever wins their block, then you go on till you win the town, then the county, and then...
I feel like it'd be more like the chat board on a fantasy football thing, where it's just like, you fucking snowflake, pussy. And it's like, wait a second.
Well, that'll be going on too, of course. Don't think I'm not trash talking the whole time. I mean, that's clearly.
But should we kind of just get into this? Kind of just like walk us through it. Let's start Tuesday night. I'd say the big election night. Normally, any night in every year presidential election before this, we would have known the victor of the night, but we kind of knew going into it was going to be a wacky night, not really knowing what was going to happen. But let's even start even earlier than that. Did you vote the day of? Were you an early voter? How was the voting experience for you? Let's start before Tuesday night.
First of all, I'll spare everybody my usual non-voter speech that I love to give people about how necessary election reform is, and I boycott the voting system because of it. However, this time I did vote, and I did do a kind of like a counter strike on the Trump side, and voted day of to help balance it out. Okay, because I guess me and Devin should acknowledge that we have talked about it, but we both voted Biden, right? We're not scared to say it. You're scared to admit.
I thought we were both writing in Geeked Up Podcast.
Did you not write in Devin Barnes? What the
fuck?
Did you write me in? Fuck. But I guess so. For me, I did go day of, and it was actually super easy. Much to my surprise, I was in and out of there in like 15 minutes. I guess a lot of people had voted early in my neighborhood or whatever. But I was shocked. I was like kind of almost excited, looking forward to like a good like hour line of fucking Biden chants and everything like that.
Yeah, sure.
But instead, I was like in and out. Everybody was real friendly. It was a cool experience.
That's wild too, man. Especially because I know, as most of our listeners know, like you live in Manhattan, so like I would expect that to be fucking crazy busy.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think that they. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying enough people probably voted early, and as we'll talk more later in this episode, but a lot of people on the left that did vote for Biden did do mail-in ballots, especially Manhattan residents, just because of COVID and everything.
Yeah, pretty much everybody I talked to in my building or whatnot, or just around, all did mail-in. So, you said, there was early voting and lots of different voting, territories in Manhattan as well. There was no shortage. It's not like, one of these places where there's one voting booth in the entire, 50-mile radius. So, all in all, though, I was still, all things considering, shocked with how easy it was.
Yeah, honestly. Absolutely. I would say myself, too, I also voted the day of, but funny story, I moved last year, but I never, being the lazy bastard that I am, changed the address on my license or anything besides, like, mailing. So I actually had to go back to my old neighborhood, which is old Woodlawn in the Bronx, to vote. And obviously, they're not busy at all.
If you're not familiar with Woodlawn, it's like they call it Little Ireland over here, and it's like mostly all fresh off the boat. So what's the politically correct way to call these mix?
J5s.
J5. It's a bunch of J5ers, but it's I guess not a lot of voters out there.
Much like 4 years ago, exactly. And I think I was like one of the only 8 people that lived in that neighborhood that's actually legally allowed to vote. And of course, I showed up at like 7 o'clock. They're like, "Hey, asshole, we've been fucking waiting all day for you. We could have locked the door at like noon if you would have showed up on time."
I know, seriously.
But dude, it was actually kind of sketchy too, because like I forgot my old address. So the guy, like, walk in, I decided to be like, Barnes, Devin. And they're like, oh, what's your old or what's your address? And I was just like,
Really?
You
almost got the fake license. ID test? You almost got busted on the fake ID test?
My license. Like, took my license out. I was like, 305 East.
Come on, that's the rule number one of trying to sneak into a bar. You got to know the address on your license. That's the...
Yeah, I totally forgot. But, like, the guy was looking at me like I was fucking out of my mind.
So both of us were responsible and voted, much to my much against every core instinct that I have. I went out there and voted. However, so who did you actually though think was gonna win on election day? Because we did actually talk about this. I think even on the Zoom room a couple days before, but I feel like we both kind of had the same take going into election night. You want to even talk about that a little bit before it all?
For sure, man. I will, dude, because honestly, I know a lot of people, like, during to the lead up of this election, like, and I'm going to say this is kind of weird, but, like, blocked, or I saw this the last 4 days, blocked or unfollowed a lot of their friends on Facebook, and to kind of keep it to their own, and I get it, like, sick of hearing the other side's bullshit, but only kind of keep it to what they're hearing. And I myself never did that. And I thought, like, I saw enough, especially having used to live in Florida. I saw a lot of just fucking, like, a lot of people that were, like, pro-Trump. And the people that love Trump, I don't think, I mean, obviously, well, he did, but, like, it just really seemed like that, like Trump said 4 years ago that he could stab someone on Fifth Avenue and he's not going to lose any supporters. It really felt that way, dude. I felt in the last 4 years that, like, I mean, I think the real thing that worked against him was coronavirus. Honestly, if it wasn't for coronavirus, I think Trump would be the president-elect right now. But I really thought Trump would be it going into election night. I didn't think it was going to be a blue wave by any means necessary. Like, honestly, maybe I didn't
we'll kind of get into...
think it was Trump, but I definitely thought, like, it wasn't like my jaw was going to hit the floor if, like, Trump got reelected.
For sure. I was, and we will get into a lot of what you just covered, some of the grander issues that are going on in the country a little bit later. But I guess just to, like, quickly kind of get through the actual election coverage in the last. For me, myself, I kind of had a similar feeling. Every, like, the way that I kind of put it, though, is like every bit of logic in my head I thought would indicate that Biden would win in, not necessarily a blue wave, but in a very comfortable margin. However, I kind of just, like, due to the trauma that we've suffered in Coronaville, have such, like, negative feelings going on that I just kind of had a feeling that in my gut that Trump was going to win, Well,
let's be honest, too. Also, like, the cockiness we went into it 4 years ago was just like, all right, let's watch this buffoon shut the fuck up. And then it was like, dude, Trump fucking is the president. It's like,
for
what
sure.
the fuck?
Yeah, so that's a little bit, that's lingering in your head as well. My ultimate prediction, though, I thought that Hillary won by 3 million in the popular vote. I thought Biden was going to win by 5 million in the popular vote, but yet still lose the Electoral College. However, like I said, a lot of that had to do with just the fact that I was very negative going into it, so my mental place was, impacting my judgment in that regard, where it was just like, you know what I mean? Because I thought for sure that there would be a blue, like, everything in my logical head would indicate that there would be a blue wave and a huge revolt against Trump, which is not exactly what happened. But,
no, it's not. But honestly, too, wasn't there, like...
And it was not at all surprised that did not happen, so...
Just knowing you and just, like, the guy, you like to root for the villain. As a big LeBron fan and a big, even more so, a big Biff Tannen fan. Weren't you kind of rooting for Trump to
I mean, Trump does remind me of my all-time favorite professional wrestler, the $1 Million Man, who once made a priest rub his bunions for fucking, like, donation money. But
like, of course, all the logic in you didn't want him to, but, like, and dude, I'll even be the first to say too, man. Like, even when I would watch the Biden Trump debates, dude, when Trump was like, when they were talking about mask safety, and Trump's like, of course we have to be safe. I guess, spoiler alert too, Bradley Cooper dies in the end. I expect a lot of these bad Trump impressions as this goes farther and farther. Dude.
I mean, not so bad. Like, I've heard worse anyway.
when they were like asking about the masks, and when Trump was like making fun of Biden, he was like, "You ever seen this guy? He wears the biggest mask you've ever seen in your life." Like, dude, I audibly laughed out loud. Like, dude, what a fucking hilarious thing to say.
I mean, yeah, it's a ridiculous thing to say, but I mean, we've talked about it before. I'm definitely Trump's comments like that do not bother me at all. Like, that's the least offensive part about Trump is that he calls Rosie O'Donnell fat and jokes around about fucking Biden's mask.
A lot of people about Trump will be like, "Oh, he's just doing what he said from the Art of the Deal," his book. And I really feel like he read Jeff Ross's like How to Be a Roast Master book because he fucking slays it.
He needs to put that one out anyway, like a Roast Master Volume 2.
Actually, fuck, right before Trump got elected, I think they roasted. I think Trump was one of the people.
He was, wasn't he roasted? Yeah, you're right.
And he was probably like taking notes. He's like, very funny, very good, like.
But I guess that's kind of will catch you up to us going into election night, and then it was kind of fun, more fun than I expected. Actually, watching the coverage going on, it kind of like had like a March Madness kind of feel with all the different networks and all the different screens. I was looking for the network with Dickie V to come on and give me his breakdown of the red states. And
here's what I would be betting on right now.
But Kornacki on the big board and all. It was definitely like a overly stimulated, exciting night of graphics and shit like that.
What's the poor bastard's name on CNN? Like, not Wolf Blitzer, but the guy that had the giant iPad, like I was talking about.
Okay,
like
that dude.
John Steele or I think it is, or something like that, dude. Dude, poor fucking guy.
But all of the networks had kind of different, they had the different stages, different states in. So it was like, there was a different news coming in, which will be a theme of everything. But I was bouncing.
Okay, I was about to ask you that. Did you just watch one station?
No, I was bouncing around. I normally boycott. I haven't watched any media. I haven't watched any cable news network in literally probably since last election. So I was like, I don't have favorites. You know what I mean? Of course, I'd be more inclined to watch MSNBC than Fox for my own ideology or whatever. However, I was having fun bouncing around. They were all honestly, did a good job. They were,
Agreed.
Even Fox was like not as I was kind of expecting them to be hilariously slanted in Trump's favor. They were like so down the middle in comparison to the other two. It was interesting.
Dude, I will say I've been saying the same thing about Fox News is how like surprised I've been about how we'll get into it later because like they were the ones that even called Biden at 260. You turn on every other channel, Biden was like 253 and then Fox News like 264. But I'll talk about that later too. How like. Every news station pretty much was like saying the same thing. I see the difference between CNN and Fox is they hilariously like CNN would have 3 Democrats and like 1 Republican that they would yell at, and Fox News the same thing. They would have like 3 Republicans and like 1 Democrat out there. They could be like, "You're right."
That's when you saw the slam with Fox is when they'd have their guests and correspondents come on. But the actual like people, a team that was heading the coverage gave you like a pretty fair and balanced job. They were. How far did you watch along throughout the night? Did you make it all the way to the unhinged press conference, which might be the highlight of the presidency? Which might be the highlight of the presidency in general.
I'll be honest. Like I was definitely drinking wine as the night went on. So I was getting blurrier, but I was also throwing my conspiracy theories out there. Like, and again, I was drunk. But like when Biden was like Vice President Biden is about to make a speech, and at this point it looked like early on Tuesday night that Trump was winning, and I was just like, "What's he gonna say? Like, is he about to concede? Like, this is fucking crazy."
Yeah.
And then he didn't, and I was like, "All right, dope." And then I got a little drunker, and then at like 1:30 in the morning, Trump came on, and he was just like, "We won it, everybody. I am the president again." I was like, wait, what's going on? I know I'm drunk, but like, is this really happening?
I feel that like for me, and I talked to some people with varying opinions about this, but as somebody that was like stone cold sober watching it, I felt that like it was for Biden a very optimistic read the whole time because you know what I mean. Like Fox had Arizona and Nevada looking good for Biden, and the other ones were kind of more just like stuck on the northern states. So by late in the night, like you felt pretty good about it. You know what I mean? mean? So, like, which I was not necessarily expecting, even though Trump had the early lead, like, due to the mail-in votes that you knew were going to be counted late, and just, like, due to the way that the order that the states were coming in, that was all to be expected. So I was like, you know, like, the news coverage kind of remained optimistic throughout the whole night. So by Biden, it was kind of like they were just waiting for him, like, almost waiting for him to give the acceptance speech. And then when Trump came out, he was just, like, so over the top, like, adamant that he'd been cheated. It was pretty much like a concession speech right there. He came out, he didn't say that we lost, but he came out and just, like, said we're being cheated, they're taking it from us. They're all, like, it sounded like somebody that had just lost the election, which was
typical fucking Trump speech. You know what I mean? Like a typical fucking, like, I told you.
No, a typical Trump speech, I thought, would have been more just sticking with the, like, we've dominated, we've won, we've totally crushed. He said that, but then really the main tone of it was that, like, oh, this is bullshit, like, I'm not going to give up, I'm not quitting, they think they're going to win, but we're not. At that point, he was ahead on all of the cards. Like, you knew that Biden was going to catch up due to late votes, but by that point, Trump was ahead. So, like, there's no reason for him to be harping on the fact that he's going to get screwed. Like, that made me very optimistic that Trump knew he was going to lose because he didn't come out and declare victory. Especially when all week long they were saying that he's going to come out and declare victory if it was close. He's ahead and he didn't declare victory. That to me made me very, very comfortable that he was going to lose the election. You know, that he knew he was going to lose the election. And
it's funny, 'cause I remember it so different because I remember him coming out and just being like, I won, baby, like, Trump 2020.
Yeah.
And then, like, I guess he did kind of, like, derail himself after that. You're right, because again, I was drinking.
I mean, he came out and said factual stuff, though. He came out and was just like, wow, we had, like, more people vote for me than anybody else that had ever, which is true. Like, they got tons of votes. He's just like, we've done really great in all these states. That's true. They did get a lot of votes in all the states. So it was just like, he did not, people were expecting a blue wave. That did not happen. So he did do really well, but they were expecting him to be 10 points down in the polls. It was very close. You know what I mean? But, like, he did not come out. He came out and, like, opted, like, hey, we did great, but they're robbing it from us. They did great, but we're gonna lose, as opposed to, like, we won, fucking party on, bitches, which is kind of what I was expecting, you know?
And I'll also say this, that I also didn't do, like, I guess personally enough research where I just kind of had in my head that mail-in ballots had to be there by then. Like, I thought I saw something where it was like, if you haven't mailed it in yet, like, don't, because, like, it's not going to be counted. And, like, little did I know that, like, sure, all the people that went out, like idiots like you and me, and, like, mailed in person, it was looking at Trump. And I just remember 4 years ago again where, like, the same guy was on his giant iPad and was like, all right, it's not looking great. But if, like, Hillary does this, and this, we could still win. I was like, oh, fuck, Trump is going to win. So this year, I just kind of had that same mindset. Like we were talking about, I already had myself prepped. Little did I know that I probably passed out during that Trump speech.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why I think that, like,
morning,
I think the wine might have impacted the recollection. You know what I'm saying? Because at that point, it's literally like 3 in the morning.
Wednesday
you know what I mean?
morning, though, and being like a fucking kid on Christmas almost, and being like, what? There's presents under the tree? Like, really expect, like, wake up all hungover, turn on the TV, and be like, all right, dude, let me guess, like, fucking 6 miles down the road from me is on fire now, and fucking turn the TV and was like, oh, fuck. It's not
that's like where, like, the story kind of starts in a lot of aspects, because really, like, the historical part of this will always be, like, the next 4 or 5 days or whatever it was from Wednesday to Saturday. And for me, I was kind of getting more pessimistic, even though it was looking better and looking more like he was going to win. The longer it went without it officially being announced, the more nervous I was getting. You know what I mean? And I guess we will talk later about all of how bad it looked, but I don't think there's any denying that it looks really bad. It's very easy for somebody to raise suspicion on the way that it unfolded. You know what I mean? And definitely after 4 years of people complaining about Russian, intelligence hacking our election and Trump not really winning, it would be a little hypocritical to not give any credence to a recount. And for me, that feels comfortable that nothing shady did happen. I say bring on all recounts. They'll probably just find, like, fucking that Trump cheat. They'll just find stuffed ballots from Trump, and, like, he'll shoot himself in the foot anyway. But I mean, that's that.
It would be hard right now to talk about these next 4 or 5 days too, without kind of getting into seeing both sides, because the next 4 or 5 days I don't know, on social media and on the news was absolutely wild. You
sure.
know what I mean?
It was pretty much being portrayed like it was most like 90% sure that Biden was going to win, and just a mere formality that they had to count the votes, which they had let you know was a good likelihood was going to happen if it was close in states in a close election, that they were going to take extra days due to the unprecedented nature of all the mail-in ballots and all of the coronavirus, protection that some of us decided to fucking take,
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you this too, like I will agree with you that if I was on the right side and like saw all these states like Pennsylvania and Georgia, who might I add, as of recording this, still is a white state. It's still undeclared. Like fucking, this is wild. But
they're an official recount now, I think, right?
Like what you're saying is that like seeing all that, like, all right, dude, we have fucking Pennsylvania in the bag, and next thing you know, it's like, And the thing is, it's like, dude, of course all those fucking votes are for Biden because Biden was telling all of his goddamn voters
for sure
to vote by mail, and Trump was like, the last thing you should ever do is vote by mail.
Yeah,
so of course there's no red
for sure
coming in. So you see that starting to happen. But you do make the point that if I was on the red, if I was on the right, I'd be like, this is fucking horseshit.
Yeah,
right?
no, for sure. Like, I don't think anything shady happened, for sure. Like, I'm not saying that anything shady did happen, but I'm just saying the way that it played out, it makes it very easy to, to raise suspicion, like I said. And also just the way that it played out in terms of, on Tuesday night, these states were at like 88%, 85%. At least that was what the media was posting us at them being done as.
Correct.
Fucking some of these states stayed at 93% for fucking 2 days. What's taking so long for the 7%? And every vote comes in. It just looks like it was not. And again, it's the unprecedented election that had never been handled like this. So you can't expect for it to run smoothly. They told you it wasn't going to run smoothly. However, like just on the eye test, you can't go crazy for fucking people, wanting to fucking second guess things, especially after you fucking spent 4 years claiming that Russian military fucking hacked the election last time.
For sure.
So.
And you make a great point too. I think we might have talked about it off mic a little bit, but I'll say it on here too. Especially that you and I are like from the restaurant business, dude. You know what? Some nights on the crazy New Year's, you're working till 6, 7, fucking 8 a.m.
Yeah, that's true.
When I'm watching fucking them count votes in Pennsylvania, I'm like, well, it's 10 o'clock here. The players are going home.
They've put in an 8-hour day.
Like,
I mean, they need their
sleep. What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
Tap out. Somebody else can do it, dude. Like, start counting.
Sure.
Like, the fact that they were like going home and sleeping.
No doubt.
Is
There's
like, what are you
no
doing?
way they shouldn't be able to bang that out fucking by Thursday at most. You know what I mean?
Get it done.
But
get it done. You
I'm
know
not saying that anything shady happened, of course. And again, I honestly believe that if anything shady, and I honestly still believe that, you know what I mean? I did not rule out a Russian military hack last time, so I'm not going to fucking rule out anything. And honestly, I believe that most elections on a local level, ranging to the presidency in the history of this country, have had levels of election fraud going on. I feel that that's like an unavoidable thing for election with 200 million people voting. There's going to be some fucking shady shit that goes on, and I was scared that Trump was going to fucking stuff ballots for Biden just so he can claim for sure that there was Biden vote fraud going on. You know what I mean? Just like defraud the whole thing. Like there's a million ways to go. Luckily, it appears to be enough states that he can't argue them all. It's not coming down to one. It's not all coming down to Pennsylvania, which have been insane, but.
Absolutely, but here's the point. Like, I mean, it's coming back to it. So, like, Wednesday through Saturday, right? They're tearing up the mail-in ballots and the absentee ballots, okay? It's starting at this point look like a Biden win. States are starting to shift that look like Trump to going to Biden. Now, what we're saying is all making sense. I don't want to get into the conspiracy theory about it yet, but it's not conspiracy theory because the other reason it doesn't help is that the president right now, President Trump, is sitting at home, not making any public announcements or anything, but he's sitting at his computer and just being like, yo, fucking voter fraud, this shit's fucking whack, it's getting robbed for me. The president of the United States is fueling these crazy theories, and then Giuliani's out there and he's like grabbing some random nut. He's like, tell me what you saw in there. The guy was like, I don't know, man, they gave me a Sharpie.
But honestly, dude, all of that, it's honestly, I don't really have a problem with all of that. It's hilarious and embarrassing for them, but that's fine with me. Let them embarrass themselves. They have the right to fucking scream foul for a week. Everything is getting proven that it's totally legit, and they're humiliating themselves by like making baseless claims. There's no basis behind any of these fraud claims, and like that's being proven. happen. So let us go to court, and we can prove without a shadow of doubt that nothing shady happened, and make you look really stupid in the process. You know what I mean?
Well, let's hold off on that for now, because we're still in the Wednesday through Saturday. Let's fast forward to Saturday, all right? Because you and I talked on Friday, and kind of like what we're saying now, we were both just like, oh man, like I still don't feel fucking like I want to know when this is over, all right? Like I want to know. I'll feel fucking fine when like I know the results. You know, New York still had the fucking windows boarded up. Let's go to Saturday now. Kind of fast forward to Saturday, like I think 10:30, 11 a.m. All right.
We've talked about this a little bit off mic. I had a pretty hilarious, unique experience for the whole thing, for the whole worldwide celebration, as the church bells were ringing in Paris. I was actually on a fishing
Can I say what I was doing
trip.
first? Because yours is much better. Because I was just left my house. I was walking to the little like hippie town, kind of like.
Yeah, you were telling me you're going to the farmer's market and the fucking hippie town.
Correct. I was going to get some coffee.
They're going to love it. They're going to be fucking pumped.
And then next thing you know, like we're walking, like it's looking good. It's kind of like we're all seeing. Next thing you know, you hear, much like it was like 7 o'clock this on a nurse shift at the beginning of COVID, the pots and pans were banging. The fucking people were running outside the house cheering. And I was like, I think I just know what happened.
Yeah, there's only one thing that could be. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. And the videos are everywhere in the city, everywhere in the country, everywhere in the world looked so cool, definitely.
I believe I text you, too, because you're very famously known as being a late sleeper. All right.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's safe to say that you
would have slept through 100%.
If you're calling the big OW before noon, you're probably going to get a nasty hello. All right. But I texted Liam and myself and was just like, oh, dude, is all the fucking ruckus waking you up, dude? Good news. And you replied to me, one of the greatest stories, and just I'll let you take it. So that's where I
guess
was.
I first responded to you. There's no politics on the boat because I told you I was going on a fishing trip and like we didn't really care. But then I informed you that wasn't exactly true. As like I was on a.
When I last saw you too, you were 50-50 about going on said fishing trip.
Okay, that's true. Yeah. I didn't know if I was gonna actually make it, but I did go. It was just like a day boat that goes, for like 8 hours or whatever. Sorry, that goes for like 8 hours or whatever, and then back into New York. But so I'm on there. And as you might expect from like the dudes, like a boat full of dudes from Queens that go fishing in November, we had a lot of like Breezy Point, old school, New York conservative, so basically a boat full of Trump fans.
Kind of like I used to be a Mets fan, and then they all became Puerto Ricans.
Exactly.
Now it's Yankees.
Exactly.
One of those.
That school of thought kind of prevailed, but so it was a very like unique way. But they brushed it off pretty well. There was a couple like hilarious conspiracy theories going on. One guy literally chimed in, "Bro, Obama sold the coronavirus to the Chinese, right?" That was a conspiracy theory that fell on deaf ears, even to like the fucking hilarious Queens fishermen. But the most hilarious comment I heard was, "Great, it's going to be 4 more years of every time you want to take a shit, you got to stick a tampon up your nose." And like he was listing off his coronavirus protocol. Some fucking hilarious red-haired fisherman from Queens. But so they were all, but they like brushed it off within 5 minutes, and fucking nobody really gave a shit.
Because kind of like what I was telling you also, I haven't like unfollowed or blocked all of like the Trump supporters I know. And I'll be honest, 90% of their profile pictures is them holding a fish.
Yeah, right. I did not see it coming. Like I did not think twice or put 2 and 2 together, nor did I know that it was going to be like the historic day. If I knew that it would have been like a party in New York City, probably would have fucking opted out of said trip, but I did not. But honestly, after a couple of weeks of being pretty emotionally invested in just all the hysteria in the country and all the hysteria in the city and everything, it was a pretty cool experience to be like very isolated and removed, and nobody really gave a shit. There was literally like 10 minutes of hilarious comments, and then like, you know what I mean, it was back to just
like, oh, I got a bite.
Exactly, yeah, like the next time somebody got a bite, it was all over. But
pretty epic. But let's, I guess, talk about, not even personally though, but the rest of the day. It was a Biden projected win. He won, I believe it was Pennsylvania, surprisingly enough. They really didn't go Trump, really turned the tides over. I think a lot of people on the left, us, were looking at Nevada and Arizona, who those numbers were suspiciously going up kind of closer to Trump, which was interesting in its own. But Biden winning Pennsylvania, or as the right will tell you, you believe the media, but it was an epic day. They also gave their speeches. And as AH pointed out to me, I think we got so caught up in the will Biden beat Trump or will Trump beat Biden that AH pointed me, classic woman move. But she was just like, dude, it's the first female vice president, just got elected. Like, that's fucking huge.
First female, African American, Pan Asian, immigrant parents. She's like the fucking.
For sure. Crossed off a lot. I believe her husband is Jewish, like the first gentleman or the second gentleman or whatever the fuck he's called.
Yeah, whatever you call
him.
The first cuck, as we call him here on the Geeked Up Podcast. But yeah, no, definitely. And I did, of course, watch the stuff afterwards. You know, the speeches were great, celebrations and all.
Absolutely,
amazing.
We just talk about a little bit of it, like not to like be like a couple snowflake, but a lot of stuff came out. I think like Joe Biden introduced his wife. He referred to his wife as like an I'm Jill's husband, you know what I mean? Brought her out as a doctor because she is, you know what I mean? But just like Kamala coming out in white and like giving the speech to women, like it was very empowering.
For sure.
Biden came out there fucking like, let's start taking shit serious. It was just kind of good to see. And look, we'll get into this
very positive,
what happens now, but like, because Crazy Joe, I love the guy. You know, it's good to see as somebody that I filmed a commercial with fucking 30-something years ago.
Yeah, seriously.
He really ran with it, all right? You know what I mean?
He was touched by the hand of gold in that commercial with Barnes.
I'm here fucking doing the Geeked Up Podcast. The fucking other guy. He's not even the president.
He's not doing too bad either, I guess. The other guy from the commercial. But
I see.
But I guess what happens here, we'll get into, like you said, we'll talk kind of about the state of the country going forward and, you know, even just right now in a minute. But I guess the story not over, however, because just because Biden has given an acceptance speech doesn't mean Trump has decided to concede. And it's pretty much now become universal thought like he is not going to, even when they do, like hilariously prove him wrong in court.
Let's be honest, too. I mean, I think during the debates when they asked him that, like, look, dude, if you lose, you concede. He was, first of all, and again, I don't like the guy. I fucking think Trump's the worst. But again, his answer was just like, well, first of all, that'll never be a thing that I would ever have to even consider saying. Second of all, we'll see. Like, he already said he wasn't going to.
For sure.
Like, none of this is shocking
honestly,
to me.
the only thing that would have happened, I feel, like if there was a blue wave, I think he would have just like resigned and taken his ball home and like, all right, you know what, you don't want me, I'm out of here, I'm leaving, fuck yourselves.
Dude, I don't.
Just like stormed out. Don't. But other than that, there was no way that he was going to like gracefully accept defeat.
I think he's going to, I maybe should say this for the conspiracy theory aspect of part of it, but I think he's going to pull a parasite and give it a little like cubby hole.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely mulling his way back into the fucking White House, mulling his way into the fucking White House basement and
respect.
Ooh, baby, it's time to get geeked up.